Wrexham Rambo asks, as a book connoisseur, have you ever been to Gladstone's library in North Wales?
I haven't been there, no. I've not actually heard of it, but I do love libraries. And, there's something I love from Francis. St. Francis was a guy that said, I don't need a library. I am the breviary. But I'm probably like you. I've had several libraries in my own house. I've had loads of libraries. I love books. So at some point, now that you've mentioned it, if I'm down that way, I'd love to pop in and have a look at it. And I know that you're coming to the Rusty Promotions thing next year where I'm doing a keynote speech, the self-defense seminar. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you there. But thank you for the question.
Phil7252 asks, do you have any tips for a mind fence or psychological fence when coming under a verbal attack?
Hi Phil, thanks for the question. I read the rest of the email as well. It was the message, it was really good. In the early days when I was doing lots and lots of interviews, I would find myself be on the radio or sometimes be on the TV, and someone would say things that would trigger me, and I could feel this rage coming up. And sometimes I would feel very emotional as well. So what I used to get really wound up by this. But what I realised later on was that these people are my teachers. If somebody can ask you a question and evoke rage, or if someone can ask a question and evoke emotion and you can't control that, that person is your teacher. So it's just about changing the perspective. What I do is I stay to the truth when I'm talking. I stay absolutely on the truth, and I stay with my own certainties. And I recognise that if anybody's able to evoke any kind of unbalanced emotion, those people are my teachers. So I'll go away and I'll work on that, and I'll work on concentrating on recognising that when that rage comes up. I can remember being on the radio, Phil, and somebody asks a question, and it's I remember that happened to me a dozen times, but I remember one guy calling doormen thugs. He was interviewing me and he was calling doormen thugs. And I felt this rage rising up in me, and my body was literally trembling. And I realised later on that this guy was a great teacher for me, because he showed me that I couldn't cope with his ignorance without going into, a kind of angry attack. I felt like it was an assault. So it's really good for me to do lots of radio interviews, to do lots of kind of interviews, to get lots of kind of questions, so that these people feel I like pins in a crab shell, pulling out all the last juicy bits of my emotional response. So eventually, it doesn't matter what people ask you. They can ask you anything they want, and it won't evoke that response. So I would say you'd probably just need more practice. If you could go to a debating class, you look at these people that do debating classes, they never get pulled into emotion because they're so used to being challenged. They're so used to people talking to them. So you've got to recognise it's not a threat, it's not a challenge, it's just someone triggering an emotion and showing you where you need to work. So it's a good opportunity to practice more, and to absolutely practice not taking any of it personal.
Iron Strength Harrison asks, do you practice semen retention?
I kind of do, but not in the way you're probably suggesting. I practice semen retention, not in that I draw it back into my body, but just in that I really limit myself with the amount of sex I have. I don't masturbate ever, and I have monogamous sex, so I have sex with my wife, but the sex with my wife is intimate, it's close, and there are no parasites within our sex. So if I'm having sex with my wife, I don't think about other people, I don't think about other imagery, it's just a pure expression of love. Whereas before, when I was insecure and didn't have control of my energy, I would need to have sex at least every second day. And if I ever went anywhere near pornography, this is true, if I watched pornography, I'd have to masturbate 5 times before I could get that out of me. So I'd never go anywhere near the extremes. And so what I've learned to do is I hold on to the semen because it's a seminal energy and it's the doorway to creation. So most of my seminal energy goes into the you see I'm a prolific writer. It goes into the work. So if I've got projects on, like a book or a film or a play, my libido really contracts, so I don't have sex hardly at all. When I'm not writing, I feel the desire to have it more, but I have control over the desire. So the sex is always from a place of love. It's always intimate, and it's always selfless and considerate. But it's much less frequent because I want to keep control of it. And I'm aware that it takes quite a long time to build up seminal energy. So I don't waste it by throwing it into a tissue. I don't let any of it spill on the floor, as they say. If you look at the Judaic text, they talk about spilling semen a lot. They very openly talk about it. So, so I limit the amount of sex I have. And when I am having sex, the sex is hench. It's just pure love.
There's a second part to this question. How are you creating your energetic vibrations?
I create my energetic vibrations by getting rid of anything in me that isn't centered. So anything that's not self, anything that's not soul or Atman, anything that's not, I was talking to Sharon the other day about it, my wife, and the reason her punching is so powerful is because there was nothing ostentatious there. There's nothing extraneous. It's just pure technique. It's beautiful. So we bring things down, right down to their raw material. So I create my energy by contracting. I get rid of everything in my life that isn't functional, that isn't serving, and I bring it down to, I live a very, very functional Zen kind of life. When I contract my ego, when I contract my the earthly desires, the ambitions and all that kind of thing, but as I contract them, my energy automatically expands. So the closer I am to the causal body, the closer I am to the Atman or the soul, the more I vibrate outwards. So that's about no longer loving the world and just loving the self, coming right to the very center. So the tighter you are to the center of the mandala, the more your consciousness will expand out, the more your energy will expand out. So it's getting rid of, for me, it's about getting rid of anything selfish from my life. My life is all about receiving only in order to share. My life is all about only serving God. Everything I need comes as a byproduct of serving God. So I seek the kingdom. I seek to serve God. If I serve God, everything else I need comes. So the vibrations that I get then aren't mine, but they are coming through me.